Maximize your wealth now.
Yes, in business, finance, family, and lifestyle. Think about it. As a certified financial educator, my whole goal for this program originally was to bring business and finance together with spiritual principles and universal laws. And all of it needs to come from the heart. Got it?
Maximize your wealth now.
Absolutely. Yes!
Welcome back to Maximize Your Wealth Now.
In business, finance, family, and lifestyle. And you know what? We're going to have Linda with us because we have been so enamored by what she has had to share with us. And we've actually been making changes in our own homes, haven't we?
That's right.
And it's making a difference. That's what's really important.
The best thing for me is my red door. I love the red door on my house. Oh my gosh. We have another guest today, which we're really excited about. His name is Bob Donnell, and he is all about taking you and your business to the next level. So yay!
And that kind of coach is very hard to find. I know when I had my other company, my nationwide company, I wanted to take it to the next level, but I couldn't find anybody who could do that with me. So I'm so excited to have Bob on the show so I can learn some tidbits from him.
Absolutely, me too. So let's get started.
Linda Lenore is a Feng Shui master with over 30 years of experience and is revered worldwide as a certified green home and office building professional. Linda is known for creating corporate and home environments that stimulate success and soothe the soul. Some of her clients are Adobe Systems, Apple Computer, Bank of the West, the Ritz-Carlton, along with international media celebrities. Linda Lenore's expertise has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Christian Science Monitor, San Jose Mercury News, Better Homes and Gardens, and many more. As a Feng Shui master, Linda blends ancient intuitive wisdom to interior and landscape design, combined with green and sustainable building practices. She's been recognized as an American Society of Interior Designers Distinguished Speaker and is known for creating the first green sustainable design building practice course entitled Green Feng Shui. Linda's heartfelt passion is to educate, motivate, inspire, and transform her audiences. She is an award-winning lecturer and a featured presenter at home and garden shows, in documentaries, and on the Hallmark Channel and Lifetime Media. Linda's best-selling book, The Gift of the Red Envelope, a guide to designing balance, order, and beauty in your home, has been translated into several languages and has changed the lives of readers worldwide.
Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you.
Hi.
I work with individuals, and most of the time people just have a home and they're not doing any remodeling. They don't have the budget to be able to do different things. But once in a while I've got a client who comes in and they want something special. And the situation was I met a couple at a convention, and it turns out we had a lot of things in common, and she said, we just moved here to this area. We want to have someone do Feng Shui. Would you come to bless the house? We went to their house and they were just renting. Well, their idea was, they lived in the Healdsburg area. Their idea was that they wanted to have a biodynamic vineyard, an organic vineyard. They were looking for the right property. What we did was we kind of set the intention, and a year later they had found the property, they'd purchased it. We did a blessing of the land and the home on the summer solstice. And we set the intention because they had about 3 acres and they really wanted about 7 to 10 acres to be able to build this vineyard. So we set the intention, and a couple years later they actually were able to buy the property next to them. They wound up using one of the houses as a vacation rental. They realized that this vacation rental had this beautiful view of the vineyard, and they had been able to plant about 2.5 acres of the vineyard. So by buying this other property, they were able to increase the vineyard, and then what they decided was they really wanted to remodel the house that was the vacation house and turn it into an Italian villa because they'd been able to travel to Tuscany. And so we started the design process. doing Feng Shui, because there's certain ways to set up a home according to Feng Shui. You really want to have the bedrooms on a particular side, and they were going to have them on the wrong side, so I was sharing that with them.
Wow.
And it just functionally wasn't working on several different levels. They were working with an architect, and it wasn't coming together. So she asked me to go in and at least redesign the bedroom area and share that with the architect. And I said, no. First of all, I'm not seeing that the architect and what you're wanting are being put together. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to do just a rough sketch of what I'm hearing you say you want. The architect got upset and he left the job. And somebody else took over and created exactly what they wanted. And they were able to increase the vineyard size, and actually the year that they finished the house, the wine, it's a Zinfandel wine that they do, it won the gold medal at and it's actually, their wine has won the gold medal for the boutique wines for the last 3 years.
Really brought them all kinds of rewards, it sounds like.
Yes.
Wow.
Very often people moving into a house, they've got the energy of a previous occupant or occupants. And so very often their desires and their dreams aren't manifesting because they've got higher expectations than the previous people that moved into the space. And so they've got that ceiling and they can't get beyond it. And so when you remove that energy and you put everything in right balance for them and for what they want, then it just flows, it just easily manifests.
I'm curious to know, Lori, what was your biggest aha during the class?
Figuring out how to say what I do in 4 to 5 words. This has been so exciting because now when I network and someone asks me what I do, I can say it so succinctly and very excited to the point that women say, I want to work with you.
Oh, wow. Talk about change. I'm a change agent here. And I tell you, I was resistant. And I did move forward and I did risk only because Shirlene was so gentle and supportive for that process.
I am so excited to be able to reach so many women now, whereas before it was one-on-one. And now I can reach the masses.
The masses. Massive visibility for massive income, right?
Yes.
It's a great story. I love hearing that.
And she has one about her house too. Can you tell that one?
The first house that I lived in had a lot of bad feng shui going on. I already shared with you about how my son died in that house. Well, I also wound up being diagnosed with cancer in there. We went through a bankruptcy, went through a divorce.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And the interesting thing was that the previous 3 owners, which I didn't know until many years after I left, had experienced some of that same energy. So we look at the predecessor, the history energy of what's going on. So I'm in a situation where I have to leave. We've sold the house and I have no money. I don't have a job. Where do I go? The realtor told me about a house. He said, you can rent it for $200. I jumped on it. He said, but you need to know something. And I said, okay. He said, the previous owner shot his wife in the house. And then he turned the gun on himself and killed himself in the house. That's a bad juju house, let me tell you. And this was in the young years of my, I had only been doing Feng Shui for maybe 3 or 4 years at that point. So I really didn't know all the different things, but it didn't scare me. So I moved in there, renting it. That was not a problem. Well, a few days later he said, would you like to buy this house? And I go, sure, if I can buy this house, I've gone through a bankruptcy, I'm not working, I don't have any income. If I can buy this house, absolutely. A couple weeks later, he showed up with the papers, I signed the papers. So changing the energy from something that was so bad, that house that had had a suicide and attempted murder in it, and to change the energy through love and blessings. And at that point, I only knew to bring candles in and to bless the space.
You know what this tells me? This tells me, people have a hard time selling a house where somebody has been killed in it, right? Or died in it. And you might be able to get a very reasonable house if you have Linda come and fix it for you. And it might change everything. You can have a reasonable house and you can have it blessed and it changes everything about it. right?
Yes. Let me wrap up a little bit more about this particular house. We wound up doing some landscaping. It was kind of an eyesore. And when we finished the landscaping, we actually won the beautification award for the city that year because of the landscaping. And shortly thereafter, I also had discovered that I was allergic to mold. There was mold in the house, and we did a complete remodel of the house. And that's where I learned how to do the green and sustainable building practices, because there wasn't the internet out there, there weren't the products out there, and I had to research them on my own. And so I brought that in because I was actually told I'd never walk again, and at one point I lost my voice and couldn't speak for 2 years because of toxins that were going on in the house. So I bring together the green and sustainable building practices along with the interior design, along with the Feng Shui, and we create these beautiful, wonderful places, and sometimes they're on a shoestring budget. I also do a lot of different classes and presentations, so sometimes people find out what to do or find out about me through that as well. But I've been able to do things not only in person, but from a distance, because I find their pictures, they send me things, we do things on Skype. So it doesn't make any difference where a person is located. If something that we've been talking about calls to them, then by all means, get in touch with me so that we can move that energy that's preventing you from being able to have the good life, to be able to be prosperous, to be productive, to have peace and serenity in your home, to be healthy.
How do we get a hold of you?
LindaLenore.com.
Have you ever noticed as a solopreneur how difficult it is to do everything yourself?
Well, it's not only difficult, it's almost impossible to really take your business to the next level all by yourself. Having a mentor and having a support system is really critical in order for you to really take yourself to the next level. So I have a support system. I'm sure Shirlene does too. I have a person that helps me that is in a foreign country. They don't even have to be local. And he's such a great support for me because he can help send out emails. He can do anything that's on the technical side that I don't have time for, he can help with. So I'm so appreciative of my support system, and I'm sure you'd like to share about yours.
Oh, my support system is just awesome because I've had this woman working with me for over 20 years. In fact, she was a hand-me-down. Do you know what a hand-me-down is? What happened is she worked with my mother because my mom was a teacher, so she was helping her in the classroom. And then she moved to working with my dad, and she was my dad's secretary, and she put all of his products and samples together. And then I inherited her. That's why I call her a hand-me-down. And she is awesome because she does all of my financial stuff. She does all my billing. She actually does my taxes and goes and sits right in front of the accountant and gives him all the information. And guess what? I just get a paper to sign. So all I have to do is look it over. She's done everything for me. And even when it comes to the show, she handles all of that too. So I tell you, your support system is your blessing, and you want to treat them like gold and with the utmost respect and appreciation.
Bob Donnell is the founder of Next Level Live, a company which focuses on the personal and professional development of individuals worldwide. Bob is a speaker, results strategist, and the author of 30 Days to Your Next Level and Mastering Your Inner Game. The books in process are Connectology and the Art of Intervention. Bob has spent over 30 years studying people from all walks of life and a variety of industries. His passion for helping others to learn and take action has given his clients a unique advantage as he takes them to the next level. From real estate to construction, entertainment to athletics, Bob has helped individuals and companies achieve more and get the results they desire.
Man, are we excited today because we have Bob Donnell here to share with us about the human psychology and how your psychology has to be in alignment with what you want to do in the world, and how you can change your psychology so it's all in alignment. So Bob, I'm so glad that you're here today with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to come up and share.
All right, so I know you have a question. You got a burning desire to ask a question right here. I can feel it.
So I mentioned in the beginning of the show that I was really trying to find a way to do the next level in my own business that I had, my nationwide company.
Sure.
And I couldn't find anyone that could take me to that place. It was really frustrated because I looked at all the women's groups, I looked all over the internet, and I couldn't find anybody. So now, here you are. Share with us, what is our mental capacity? How do we think about moving to a company to the next level?
Well, our first is our psychology, or what I call your inner game. Your inner game must be strong enough to support the actions required to get that result desired. And what happens is we normally just map out a plan and we say, okay, here's what I want, and so here's all the action steps I need to take. But what we don't take into consideration is our psychology. One of my friends, Wesley Gu, he makes a great statement. He says, Nike made a fortune on the fact of just do it. But what they don't take into consideration is that sometimes you just don't feel like it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So it's one of those things. It's like, which came first? The chicken or the egg principle, but the real bottom line is that our psychology, our inner game, has to be strong enough to support the actions that are required to get the result desired, or it never will happen. And I get asked all the time, Bob, well, how do I know what my psychology will support? And I go, it supports exactly what you're doing right now and nothing more, or you would be doing more. And so it's really that simple. But then how do we create a psychology that will support those actions? That's a whole nother piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I was ready with whatever psychology I was supposed to learn.
Sure.
I just didn't know where to find it.
Right, right.
So I know that the psychology has to go with the behavior. That's what you just said. And I love the example that you were using a little earlier. Would you share that with us about sales calls?
About sales calls, yeah. If you need to make 20 more sales calls in a day, and you say, okay, I know that my ratio to calls is just not there, so I need to make 20 more sales calls. That's great. You know exactly what to do. But how many other things do you know exactly what to do? Do you know how to lose weight? Do you know how to make more money? Do you know how to be more loving? Yes, we all know those things. Yes. Why don't we do it? It's because our psychology doesn't support it. So I'll give you a perfect example. Somebody will say, Bob, I don't know what to do about making 20 more sales calls. And I say, well, if I told you this, that if you don't make 20 more sales calls, a loved one, a very loved, near and dear one to you, is going to die. What's the likelihood you'll make the 20 sales calls?
You'll do it.
Every time, right? How many days will you miss?
I do it.
Right. How many days will you miss? None, right?
Right?
Why?
Right.
Because your psychology now supports making those sales calls. So sometimes we can't create that kind of sense of urgency, but it boils down to the reason we don't do something is because we haven't created a sense of urgency about it.
So that's why when people are to the bottom of their bucket, then suddenly there's a sense of urgency and they start to pull themselves out of it.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly who said it, but I love it, and I attribute it to Tony Robbins because he says a lot of great things about this. But the principle is that it's not about our resources; it's about our ability to be resourceful. And so, really most people say, Bob, I don't know how to do it. And I go, well, if your child's life was in danger, would you figure it out? Yes. Then it truly isn't about your resources. It's about your ability to be resourceful. Bob, I can't be on time. Really? If I was going to pay you $5,000 to be on time, would you be on time? Yes. Then it wasn't about that you were running late, that you didn't leave early enough. It was that it wasn't important enough for you to be on time. Ooh. We need to learn how to create resourcefulness with people, not just helping them get better resources. Resourcefulness will trump resources every time.
Wow, so that must be why people take class after class after class after class after class,
yes.
And then nothing ever changes.
Yeah.
And they think that somebody else hasn't given them the answer.
Right. And I love those people that come back and say, well, I took this class and it didn't work. And I said, well, bathing is kind of like that too, right? You only take it once, or do you take a bath every day? Right? It's a constant and never-ending improvement. And so we constantly have to be looking at, how do I become the absolute best version of myself? And one of the questions we can ask ourselves is, how would the absolute best version of me show up in that situation? In that situation, in that networking event, in that sales presentation, online, how would the best version of me show up? And then act that way. So that becomes, again, my psychology is, the best version of me would show up differently than the version that's just normally showing up.
I like that. So it's really all about setting up the right mindset strategy, if you will, to keep you motivated to keep moving forward then.
Yeah, motivation's great. and we do need a level of motivation. It really it really boils down to changing our behavior and our patterns. So when patterns collide with willpower, patterns win almost every time. So what we have to do is not just change the willpower. I'm going to get them to go to the gym tomorrow. I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
How often do we do that? And then we don't go. Why? Because we're trying to trump a pattern with willpower. And so we have to understand that willpower is going to fall short all the time to patterns. So what we have to do is change the patterns. Yeah. And it's not just our mindset, because mindset's the way we think, but it's really about our psychology, what inner game. It's that piece that everything that you've ever experienced in your entire life, Barbara, every piece that you've ever experienced, everything good, bad, and indifferent, that has made you who you are today. And so it's that. Everything that makes you up who you are today is your inner game.
Okay.
That doesn't always change the way you think, but it certainly changes the way that you feel and believe. True. And everything else. And that's where your inner game really needs to start changing, so you can change the patterns.
Okay, so we start with the inner game to change the patterns that we have, because our willpower won't trump the patterns. I so get that at a deep level, that we can have all the best intentions and still not make it to the gym. So true. Right?
So true.
So, yeah.
So what do we do to overcome the old patterns so that we can create new ones?
Well, there's a couple of things. In my book, Mastering Your Inner Game, there's 7 pillars, and I can just go to a couple of them, but one is level of commitment. I'll give you one of the most powerful ones that I've ever used with professional athletes, terminally ill patients, you name it, across the board. Nice. One of the most powerful ones is the first pillar, and that's called commitment. And when you think about commitment, what I want you to do is I want you to visualize a picture that reminds you of commitment. So as a Christian, I have a level of commitment with Jesus Christ hanging on the cross. That's just the ultimate commitment. So when I think about commitment, and what I ask you to do is think of some picture that reminds you of commitment, and then ask yourself, when it comes to going to the gym, when it comes to changing that behavior, when it comes to eating healthier, or whatever it is that you want to change in your life, ask yourself, does my level of commitment look like that picture or not? And if it doesn't, then we either need to lessen the level of commitment that's required, which means we have to change our goal, or we step up our game.
Do you have a home where you wish had more peace, more serenity, was healthy for you, and that you actually had prosperity attracted to you? Most people have homes that have energies within them that prevent them from having these elements in their lives. If you participate in this 4-part webinar on Feng Shui, the practical approaches, you can change the energy yourself very easily to create a home that is happy, healthy, and harmonious.
What is your level of commitment? Because if that's not there 100%, then most likely what you're looking at is not important to you.
Right. Or it's not important enough.
And not
right?
important
It might be
enough,
important. And I think that's one of the things is one of the other pillars is mastering your language. And so if I say it's not important, is that really a true statement? No, a lot of times it's not a true statement. A lot of times it's important, it's just not important enough, such as being on time. So it's really about changing that behavior. But unfortunately, we tend to put things out there that really aren't that painful, but they're mildly painful. And so then we go, well, why didn't it change?
Wasn't enough pain.
It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough pain.
Tell us another pillar.
Yeah. Well, one of the other pillars that we talked about was your physiology. Our physiology determines our state. And a lot of times when we get overwhelmed, we're in the middle of crunch time on a task or a project, and we're overwhelmed, what do? And we're closing off our diaphragm, we're getting less oxygen to the brain, and we're literally putting ourselves further and further into a state of depression. And so we have to change our state and master our physiology to do that.
And so I have to repeat, our physiology determines our state, not the other way around.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of times you'll, at least in my head, I think that because of my state, that's my physiology. But it's really because of my physiology, it's determining my state.
Yeah, our physiology can change our state. And our state can change our physiology a little bit because, just like I said, if you get depressed, what do? You do this. But so your physiology is changing your state. All you have to do is change your state back, change your physiology. Your physiology has to adapt.
Tony Robbins talks about that
He does,
too, right?
yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he was
He
just
does a
saying,
great piece
just
on that.
clap your hands
Right,
really
anything.
loud. It'll change the state of everybody in the room.
It does. So anytime somebody's like that, I'll just say, get them to do 10 jumping jacks, do 2 push-ups, do 5 sit-ups, anything that's going to change. Walk around the building, anything to change your state, and then start supporting that effort. And see, it's not that we can just do it once in a while. We've got to do it continuously.
Yes.
We've got to do it constantly.
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Yeah.
do. Wow, this has been so valuable. I appreciate everything that I've learned so far.
Me too. Me too.
Oh my gosh. I love our physiology really affects and impacts our state. Our behavior is driven by our commitment, which is important because if we don't have a strong enough commitment, even though we're saying we're committed to it, or it might not follow through because it has to be committed to 100%.
Yeah, there's some things that only require 10%, right? There's some things that we can do without really thinking about.
Yeah.
Breathing is one of those things.
Yes.
We do it without thinking about it, right?
And driving, too.
And driving,
Yeah.
right? But if we want to be specific about something and we want a specific result that requires a higher level of commitment, then we have to either raise our commitment or settle for less. I use the example of a car a lot of times. Somebody will say, I love Ferraris. I love Ferraris. But I don't want to buy a Ferrari. I don't want to make that kind of investment.
Yeah.
I don't have the commitment level to buy the Ferrari, but I like it.
Yeah.
And I like driving my friends' Ferraris.
Yeah,
That works really well for me. But I don't want to make the commitment of buying one. So I'm committed to liking the experience, but I'm not committed to buying one. So it's just a different level of commitment. When we really get clear of that, what ends up happening is we start saying, okay, I either need to lessen what I want or raise up my standard. And then my commitment becomes even more stable for that.
Wow, interesting. So, how do we touch base with you? Because I'm going to be running after you pretty soon.
Love it.
To try.
Love it.
So what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Go to my website, everythingnextlevel.com, everythingnextlevel.com, and on there, my courses, I do some live experiential courses at my house in Newport Beach. We do some really cool things where it's just really experiential. I also have online courses and things like that as well. We do some coaching, one-on-one and in group. I have an association for entrepreneurs that really just want to raise the standards and get better results.
Nice.
So everything is right there on everythingnextlevel.com.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
You've just been awesome today.
Awesome. Thank you.
so much. I hope you got a lot out of today, and I really appreciate that you stayed tuned with us so that you could take these golden nuggets that we're bringing you each week.
I love that. Golden nuggets. Wow, did we hear a lot of really great stuff today or not? Yes, we did. Okay.
So take advantage of what you learn. Just find out more about Feng Shui, and also, if you have a business, get it to that next level and tell us about it. Leave a comment for us to let us know what you're utilizing that we're bringing to you.
That's right. We want to know if we're making a difference because we sure hope we are.
Thanks so much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.